It is with the heart that one sees rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Hello. If you're listening to this right now, let me ask you something very simple. Have you ever made a decision you couldn't explain, but you felt it was right? Or maybe the opposite. Have you ever done something in a moment of anger, fear, or sadness, only to regret it seconds later, wondering, why did I react that way? If so, I invite you to stay with me. Because in the next few moments, we're going to explore something that may change the way you see yourself and the world around you forever. You see, we've been taught that intelligence is about logic, about reason, about IQ. But here's the truth, some of the smartest people in the world are completely lost when it comes to their own emotions. And that matters deeply. Because in life, it's not just what you know, it's how you feel while you live it. It's how you treat others. It's how you handle stress, pain, joy, love, and loss. And all of that, every single piece of itis, rooted not in IQ, but in what I call emotional intelligence. So today, I want to take you on a journey, not into theory, but into real stories, real science and real tools that can help you take back your mind, your heart, and your future. Let's start not with a definition, but with a question. What are emotions really for? Because the answer to that will unlock everything. Let me take you back to a story. A true story. Gary and Mary Jane Chauncey were on an Amtrak train with their 11-year-old daughter, Andrea. Andrea had cerebral palsy. She was confined to a wheelchair. The train derailed. It plunged into a river in Louisiana. As the water began to rise and the train started to sink, Gary and Mary Jane did something astonishing. They pushed Andrea, trapped in her wheelchair, through a window into the arms of rescuers. They saved their daughter. Then the train car filled with water, and they didn't make it out. They died. Why am I telling you this? Because there is no rational explanation for that act. From a survival standpoint, it doesn't make sense. But from the emotional standpoint, from the standpoint of love, of instinct, of what matters most when it matters most, it was the only choice they could make. That's what emotions are for. Emotions are not obstacles to logic. They are ancient tools for survival. They are internal signals, guiding us through the chaos of life, helping us respond to danger, pursue joy, bond with others, and make meaning out of the noise. So, let me ask you this. When was the last time your heart told you to do something that your brain couldn't justify? And did you listen? Because here's the secret. Our emotions are not the enemy. They're not here to sabotage us. They're here to protect us, motivate us, and connect us. But they can only do that when we understand them, when we learn their language. And that is the beginning of emotional intelligence. You see, the reason emotions feel so powerful is because they are. They've been with us long before language, long before civilization, long before anything you and I call modern life. They are part of our biology, our design, our evolution. In fact, some scientists now say we didn't just evolve to think. We evolved to feel and survive because of those feelings. Fear tells us to run. Anger tells us to fight. Sadness tells us to slow down and heal. Joy tells us to keep going. Every emotion is a signal, a call to action. The question is, are we listening to those signals or letting them control us? That's the difference between reacting and responding, between living on autopilot and living with awareness, between surviving and growing. So let me say this clearly. Emotional intelligence begins the moment you stop fearing your emotions and start understanding them. Let's go deeper. Let me tell you another story. It was 1 a.m. when Bobby Crabtree and his wife returned home from a late night with friends. They assumed their daughter Matilda was spending the night at a friend's house, but she wasn't. Matilda was 14 years old. She wanted to surprise her parents. So she hid in the closet. And when they came home, she jumped out and yelled, "Ooh!" A joke, a moment of joy. But Bobby Crabtree heard the noise before entering her room. Alarmed, confused, afraid, he grabbed his .357 pistol, walked cautiously in, and in the instant Matilda jumped out, he pulled the trigger. He shot her in the neck. She died 12 hours later. Now pause. Breathe. This wasn't evil. It wasn't hatred. It was fear, pure and raw. It was emotion overwhelming reason. This is the core of why I wrote Emotional Intelligence. Because these moments happen far more often than we realize. Maybe not always with such tragic outcomes, but the same mechanism is there. Have you ever lost it during an argument? Said something you didn't mean? Hit send on a message you regretted immediately? That's what I call an emotional hijacking. And it's not just poetic language, it's real neuroscience. Here's how it works. Inside your brain is a tiny almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. It's ancient, fast, powerful. It evolved to protect us from threats. And it can trigger fear, anger, or panic in milliseconds before the rational part of your brain even understands what's happening. Literally. When a sound or sight enters your senses, the signal goes to the thalamus, a sort of relay station. From there, one route goes to your thinking brain, the neocortex. That takes a few extra steps. But another faster route goes straight to the amygdala. And that's the one that makes you slam the brakes, yell at a stranger, or in Bobby Crabtree's case, pull the trigger. The amygdala acts before logic can catch up. This is why we say or do things in a rush of emotion and later think, what came over me? So let me ask again, how often do you let emotions drive your decisions without realizing it? Because emotions are not wrong, they're not bad. But when they hijack us, when fear, rage, or sorrow override our reason, we become reactive, not reflective. We act out of habit, instinct, even trauma. And in today's world, that can be dangerous. Thousands of years ago, a quick burst of fear could save your life from a predator. Today, that same burst can ruin a relationship, end a job, or even take a life. So, no emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about recognizing them, naming them, and learning when to listen and when to pause. Because when we learn that pause, that sacred space between feeling and action, we regain our power. That's what emotional intelligence is really about. Let's go deeper into the architecture of our mind and see how these two selves, the emotional and the rational, dance, fight, and sometimes collide. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever told yourself, I'm over it, but then your eyes welled up with tears at the very mention of someone's name? Or maybe you've tried to think logically during a hard moment, but no matter how rational your reasoning, something inside you just hurt. That's the moment when your two minds collide. The mind that thinks and the mind that feels. What science now shows, using what many of us have always known in our hearts is this. We are not one mind, we are two. One is rational, it plans, analyzes, calculates, reflects. The other is emotional, it senses, intuits, reacts, remembers. They work together. They shape every decision you make. And when they're in harmony, life flows. But when they clash, well, you've lived it. You've felt that internal war between logic and emotion, that tension between what makes sense and what feels right. Let me share a story. A friend of mine went through a painful divorce. Her partner left her for someone else. Months later, she said to me, I'm okay now. I don't even think about them anymore. But as she said it, her eyes filled with tears. That's the emotional mind speaking truth beneath the surface. Because words can lie, logic can mask pain. But the emotional mind, it remembers everything. It remembers the tone of a goodbye, the way the silence felt when someone stopped calling, the memory of being left, ignored, or unloved. These two, minds rational and emotional, are wired into our biology. They're not abstract ideas. Neurologically, your emotional mind lives in the limbic system, especially the amygdala. Your rational mind lives in the neocortex, that big, complex outer layer of the brain that gives us language, reasoning, and self-awareness. And here's the thing. The emotional brain evolved first. That means it's faster, older, and more deeply embedded in your survival system. Which also means that when things get intense, when stress or fear take over, the emotional brain can override your rational thoughts. This is why a tiny comment from someone can ruin your entire day. Why a memory from childhood can suddenly cause you to panic, cry, or retreat. Why some arguments feel like life or death event when they're about dinner plans. So the real challenge isn't to eliminate emotion. The challenge is to build a bridge between feeling and thought, between reaction and reflection, between what your heart knows and what your head understands. Because you are both. You are not just logic. You are not just emotion. You are the conversation between the two. And the more fluent you become in that dialogue, the more power you'll have over your own life. This is the core of emotional intelligence. Not the silencing of emotion, but the intelligent integration of it. Let's go even deeper. Let me show you why evolution gave us emotions in the first place, and how those same emotions, if misunderstood, can mislead us in today's modern world. Let's time travel just for a moment. Imagine yourself 0 years ago. You're not in a city, you're not scrolling a screen. You're in a forest, no laws, no supermarkets, no locks on doors. You hear a branch snap. Is it the wind or a predator about to pounce? In that moment, hesitation could be fatal. And so your body responds instantly, heart pounding, muscles primed, breath shallow. That's your emotional brain doing its job, keeping you alive. Fear isn't weakness, it's wisdom from your ancestors. Now fast forward to today. You're not in a jungle, you're in traffic, or on a Zoom call, or reading a text message. But the same ancient brain is still operating. A mean comment on social media can activate the same fear circuitry as a wild animal once did. A rejection email from work can trigger your fight or flight response. A breakup can feel literally like you're under attack. Here's the truth most people never hear. Your brain was not designed for the 21st century. It was designed for survival. Not for Twitter, not for job interviews, not for rush hour, certainly not for navigating the complexity of human relationships, technology, and modern stress. This is what I call the emotional mismatch. We're using ancient tools to navigate a modern world. And sometimes those tools misfire. Like when your amygdala reacts to criticism with the same intensity it would to physical danger. Or when you get flooded with rage over something that deep down isn't worth it. Or when you feel sadness so deep, even though you know better. It's not because you're broken. It's because you're human. So what's the solution? Do we suppress our emotions? Do we shame ourselves for having them? No. The answer is to update the software, to bring awareness to these automatic responses, to recognize when you're being hijacked, and to pause, to retrain the system not by erasing emotion, but by rewiring your relationship to emotion. Think of it like this. If your car alarm goes off every time someone walks by, you don't blame the street. You recalibrate the sensitivity. In the same way, emotional intelligence is how you recalibrate your inner alarms. You learn the signals. You identify the triggers, and then you respond with clarity, not chaos. That's how we evolve beyond impulse. That's how we grow as people. That's how we stop letting 100 zero-year-old instincts ruin 21st century lives. We're not here to be perfect. We're here to be aware, and awareness changes everything. Now, let's move into the practical side. What can you actually do day to day to grow your emotional intelligence? Because knowledge alone isn't power. Applied knowledge is, let's make this real. You've learned what emotional intelligence is. You've seen how emotions evolve to help us survive, but sometimes sabotage us today. Now, the big question is, what can you actually do to grow emotional intelligence in daily life? Let's begin where all emotional growth starts. 1. Awareness. What am I feeling right now? That sounds simple, but think about it. When was the last time you paused to truly ask yourself, what am I feeling? Not just, I'm stressed, but is it frustration, fear, disappointment, insecurity? Because emotions are layered, and when you name them, you tame them. Psychologists call this affect labeling. It literally calms the amygdala when you name what you feel. Let's try it now. Take a deep breath and silently ask, what am I feeling right now in this moment? That single question opens the door to emotional intelligence. You're no longer just reacting, you're observing. You're becoming conscious. 2. Naming. Can I describe this emotion with precision? Not all sadness is the same. There's heartbreak, grief, nostalgia, loneliness. Not all anger is the same. There's irritation, resentment, outrage, betrayal. The more precise your emotional vocabulary, the better your brain can process it. Think of emotions like colors. If all you have is red and blue, you miss the richness of crimson, scarlet, navy, sky. Being able to say, I feel overwhelmed, instead of just, I'm mad, that's emotional intelligence at work. It puts your rational mind back in the driver's seat. It restores balance. So next time you're feeling off, don't just say, I don't know. Get curious. Ask yourself, what's the real word for this feeling? 3. Regulation. Now that I know what I'm feeling, what do I do with it? This is where emotional intelligence becomes power. Because you can feel angry without lashing out. You can feel fear without running. You can feel grief and still show up for others. Regulation isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about channeling it. Sometimes it means taking a break before responding. Sometimes it means breathing, walking, writing, or even crying. But what it never means is denying your humanity. We are not robots. We're human beings. And emotions are data, not directives. Think of a pilot flying through turbulence. They don't shut off the instruments, they use them to navigate. In the same way, your emotions aren't your enemy. They're your inner weather system. You just need to know how to read the signs and steer through the storm. So let me leave you with a mini mantra. Feel it, name it, choose what to do with it. That's the foundation. And when you practice that daily, even in small moments, you begin to rewire your brain. You build new habits, new circuits, and over time, a new life. But there's still one thing we haven't talked about, the power of connection. Emotional intelligence isn't just about you. It's about how you impact others. So let's go there. Let's talk about empathy, relationships, and how our emotions shape every human connection we have. Let me ask you this. Machen, have you ever walked into a room and immediately sensed the energy? Felt someone's tension without them saying a word? Known someone was hurting just by looking in their eyes? That's empathy. And it's not magic, it's not woo-woo, AD, it's emotional intelligence turned outward. You see, being emotionally intelligent doesn't stop with you. The real test is how you show up in relationships, how your presence affects those around you, how well you read the room, hold space, and respond with care. Empathy is not about fixing people. It's about feeling with them. Sometimes it's not the words you say, it's the silence you hold. The eye contact, the acknowledgement. I see you, I feel you, you're not alone. That's emotional intelligence in action. Now, let me show you how this works in everyday life. You're at work, a colleague snaps at you. The reflex might be, how dare they? Or, that was disrespectful. But pause. An emotionally intelligent response might sound like, hey, is everything okay? You seem stressed. One simple question born from empathy can shift the entire tone, because often people don't need correction. They need connection. Let's take it deeper. In relationships, whether with family, friends, or partners, emotional intelligence is what builds trust. Not just what you say, but how you listen. Not just what you feel, but how you share it. It means expressing emotion without blame. It means validating others without losing yourself. It means knowing the difference between reacting to defend and responding to understand. There's a reason couples therapists say it's not the fighting that breaks couples. It's the lack of emotional safety. Emotional intelligence creates that safety. So here's the question I want you to carry. How do people feel after they've spent time with me? Do they feel heard? Do they feel judged? Do they feel seen or invisible? Because emotional intelligence isn't measured by test scores. It's measured by impact. And here's the beauty. Empathy is trainable. You can grow it, practice it. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. Start small, make eye contact, put the phone down when someone speaks, ask one deeper question, or just say, that sounds hard. Want to talk about it? It matters more than you know, because in a world full of information, it's connection that heals, and emotional intelligence is the bridge. Now, as we approach the end of this journey, let's bring it all together. Let me speak to you from the heart, not as a psychologist, not as a scientist, but as a fellow human being. Let's move into the final part of this message. Take a moment, breathe. You've just taken a journey through the landscape of your emotional life, through your fears, your instincts, your patterns, your possibilities. And now I want to speak directly to you. Not to your job title, not to your resume, to you, us, a human being. Here's the truth. You will have days when your emotions feel too big. You'll lose your temper. You'll feel broken. You'll say the wrong thing. You'll hurt someone you love, or cry for reasons you can't explain. And that doesn't mean you failed. It means you're alive. Because being emotionally intelligent doesn't mean being emotionally perfect. It means being aware, being honest, and being willing to grow. It means knowing when to pause, knowing when to apologize, knowing when to say, I'm not okay, but I'm trying. It means replacing judgment with curiosity, criticism with compassion, shame with understanding. We were never taught how to navigate emotions in school. We were told to be smart, but not to be kind to ourselves. We were rewarded for knowing answers, but not for sitting in discomfort long enough to ask better questions. Let's change that. Let's raise a new standard, not just of intelligence, but of humanity. Because the future doesn't belong to those who know the most. It belongs to those who know themselves, who manage their emotions with grace, who lead with empathy, who show up not in perfection but in presence. So I leave you with this. Next time you feel something rising in you, pause. Name it. Hold it with kindness and ask, what is this emotion trying to teach me? Because there's always wisdom there, always a lesson, always a moment to become more of who you're meant to be. Emotional intelligence isn't just a skill. It's a way of living, a way of loving, a way of being fully human in a world that desperately needs it. So keep learning, keep feeling, keep showing up, not just for yourself, but for the people around you who are still learning how to do the same. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, the strongest minds are the ones that understand the heart.